So, good morning, everyone. This is the last topic that we will be discussing, and the title of the subtopic will be Instructor Made Tests for in-class use. So, the topic outline will be Instructor Made Tests for in-class use, and we will discuss the psychometric translation of student complaints, then addressing concerns about classroom tests, validity, and reliability. So, psychometric translation of student complaints. So professors want to give and of course students want to take tests that are reliable and valid measures of student knowledge. So even students who have not taken a course in psychological testing and assessment seem to understand psychometric issues regarding the test administered in the classroom. So in um, this table is entitled the psychometric translation of student complaints. So in this table, there are two columns. So first is the student complaint that most of us might have heard or have said before, or even after we take examinations, and a corresponding translation of those complaints in the language of psychometrics. So as you can see in the first student complaint, I spent all last night studying chapter 3 and there wasn't one item on that test from that chapter. So the translation in the language of psychometrics will be, I question the examination's content validity. So it is a very common complaint na ginagawa natin. Even tayo na mga students, sinasabi natin yan if, for example, nag-study tayo ng isang chapter kasi doon daw kukuha ng exam yung teacher tapos hindi naman siya lumabas sa exam na binigay. So, that is, yung parang yung issue is nasa content validity. Yung nasa second complaint naman is the error variance will be on the test administration procedures kasi nga hindi niya naintindihan yung instructions and that made an impact sa grade na nakuha niya. So, siguro the instructions should have been worded better para mas maintindihan siya ng test takers. Yung sa third naman, yung complaint niya is about sa bakit perfect score yung nakuha ng friend niya and sa kanya mayroong 3 points off na pareha lang naman sila ng answer or like they wrote the same thing ng friend niya. So yung concern niya doon when it comes to the language of psychometrics will be sa rater error affecting the reliability kasi an example of an error in the test scoring and interpretation, may element kasi siya ng subjectivity and scoring. So, sa ganong types ng test, so for example, essay test yun siya, there is subjectivity and of course, yung error variance is nasa rater talaga siya. And lastly, I didn't have enough time to finish this test, this test didn't measure what I know, only how fast I could write. So I wish the person, yung translation niya is, I wish the person who wrote this test had paid more attention to issues related to criterion-related validity and the comparative efficacy of speed as opposed to power test. So yun yung table ng psychometric translation of student complaints. So like students, so now we will discuss the addressing concerns about classroom tests. So like students, professors have concerns about the test they administer. So they want their examination questions to be clear, relevant, and representative of the material covered. Also, they sometimes wonder about the length of their examinations, and their concern is to, of course, cover voluminous amounts of material while providing enough time for students to give thoughtful consideration to their um, answers. So, of course, just like students, ini-ensure din ng professors or they still have concerns about sa mga test na ina-administer nila sa mga students nila. So, of course, the questions ng examinations nila have to be clear, relevant, and representative ng mga itinuro nila or yung materials na binigay nila sa mga students. And their goal is to cover yung maraming materials na yon while still providing enough time for students na makapag-isip or mapag-isipan na mabuti kung ano yung answers na isasagot nila sa examination na binigay ng professor. So in the classroom, In the classroom, rigorous psychometric evaluation of the dozen or so tests that any one instructor may administer during the course of a semester is impractical. So tests change to reflect changes in lectures and readings as courses evolve. Also, if tests are reused, they are in danger of becoming measures of who has seen or heard about the examination before taking it rather than measures of how well the students know the course material. Kasi of course, if hindi mag-change ang tests, syempre it will not be a measure of of who learned well or um who understood the materials well, the materials na given. Hindi na siya magiging measure ng ganun. Magiging measure na lang siya ng kung sino yung nakarinig and nakaalam na or na unang nakaalam ng materials na yon. So, that is why dapat nag-change din ang tests na ibinibigay. So, concerns about content validity are routinely addressed, usually informally by professors in the test development process. So, such a deliberate approach to content coverage may well boost the test's content validity, although no formal evaluation of the test's content validity will be made. So, criterion-related validity is difficult to establish on many classroom tests because there is no obvious criterion reflects the level of the student's knowledge on the material. So, yung sa construct validity naman, in classroom tests, it is often assessed informally, and when an anomaly in test performance may call attention to issues related to um, construct validity rather. So, ang example nito is there is a group of students who um who took a test an above average level of exams. Tapos, suppose those students, that group of students performed poorly on a particular exam. So, if all of those students, they admitted na hindi sila nakapag-study ng materials and they took the exams, of course, it will be an enough explanation kung bakit low yung scores nila. However, if yung students na yon they report na nag-study sila ng mabuti and they have understood the material as usual, then one might explain the outcome by questioning the exam's construct validity. So, yun. Next is sa reliability. So, a discussion with students can shed light on the test's internal consistency. So, if the test was designed to be heterogeneous, then low internal consistency ratings might be desirable. In rare instances, or on essay tests rather, inter-rater reliability can be explored by providing a group of volunteers with a criteria using a grading used in grading essays and letting them grade some. So, such an exercise may clarify score criteria. So, pwede na ipa-check siya ulit sa colleagues or ng checker, or pwedeng bigyan sila ng criteria para uniform at walang subjectivity yung check nila ng paper. In rare instance, when same classroom test is given twice or in an alternate form, a discussion of the test, retest, or alternate forms reliability can be conducted. So, the question, have you ever taken an exam in which one student quietly asks for clarification of a specific question and the professor then announces to the entire class the response of the student's question? Diba? There are instances na, for example, si Carl nagtatanong siya sa teacher or sa professor na nagbabantay sa atin during exams, nagtatanong siya about sa specific number, and yung professor niya, ina-announce niya sa whole class yung response niya doon sa question ni Carl. So, that professor is attempting to reduce administration error and of course increase reliability by providing the same experience for all test takers. So when grading short answer essay questions, professors may try to reduce rater error by several techniques. For example, they ask a colleague, yun nga sinabi ko kanina, they may ask a colleague na pag hindi nila naintindihan, pwede lang ipa-check dun sa colleague na yon. And pwede din na ma-reduce ang administration error and increase reliability by eliminating items na hindi masyado naiintindihan ng students. Lastly, tests developed for classroom use may not be perfect. Few, if any, of these tests for any purpose are. Still, most professors, much like their professional test developer counterparts, are always on the lookout for ways to make their tests as psychometrically sound as possible. So, these are my references, and that ends my reporting and the whole reporting on the chapter test development. So, thank you so much po for listening.